Welcome to Traveling Kangaroo, your trusty guide hopping through the twists and turns of today's world. Today, we're diving deep into a critical topic that's shaking the very foundation of America. How 10 states are teetering on the edge of economic collapse as the national debt soars past $35 trillion. Stick with me as we leap into the heart of the crisis, uncovering what's putting these states at risk and what it means for all of us. America's economy might seem like a giant kangaroo bounding forward, but under the surface, some states are struggling to keep their balance. From neon-lit Nevada to the Motor City of Michigan, fragile industries, rising debts, and crumbling infrastructure are threatening livelihoods and futures. So grab your Joey pouch, and let's hop through the top 10 states most likely to feel the sting first when the next economic crash hits. Starting with number 10, Nevada, the state that sparkles with bright lights but hides serious vulnerabilities. Nearly 42% of Nevada's workforce depends on tourism, entertainment, and leisure. When recessions hit, families cut vacations first, which means fewer visitors. Dropping from over 40 million to around 35 million can create a $3 billion revenue hole. That's not just a slowdown, it's an economic heart attack. On top of that, Nevada's mining industry relies heavily on gold prices that swing wildly with global markets. Add in a strained energy grid during scorching 115-degree summers and a water crisis fueled by a shrinking Colorado River, and you've got a state gambling survival in ways far more serious than the casinos on the Strip. Hopping along to number 9, Louisiana, a state built on oil, gas, and petrochemicals. Over 260,000 jobs depend on this volatile sector. When oil prices plummet, as they did before, state revenues vanish overnight, dragging budgets deep into deficit. Louisiana also faces soaring insurance premiums due to recent billion-dollar hurricanes, and its aging levee system still struggles years after Katrina. High poverty rates and a tourism sector centered around New Orleans mean that when the economy cracks, Louisiana won't just stumble, it'll sink. At number 8 is Arizona, marketed as a land of sunshine and opportunity but, honestly, hiding some serious cracks beneath its desert heat waves. Water shortages are critical here, with about 36% of Arizona's water coming from the rapidly shrinking Colorado River. Farms are facing dry fields, threatening around $23 billion in agriculture. Rising electricity bills during those blistering summers really strain families, while rapid population growth from California migrants is overwhelming roads, schools, and healthcare. With soaring rents and construction jobs vulnerable to rising interest rates, Arizona's desert boom could, quickly turn into a mirage. Number 7 brings us to California, the crown jewel of America's economy with a GDP larger than most countries. But beneath its golden surface lie some pretty massive risks. Tech layoffs are mounting, ports handle about 40% of U.S. imports, yet face slowdowns, and climate disasters like wildfires and droughts are driving up insurance costs and wiping out billion-dollar crops. The cost of living is sky-high. Median home prices are near $760,000, with rents around $3,000 in cities like San Francisco. Plus, 500,000 residents have fled recently, draining tax revenues amid a staggering $68 billion budget deficit. California's golden dream could honestly become America's nightmare. Illinois sits at number 6 with an economy valued at $1.1 trillion, but weighed down by over $140 billion in unfunded pension liabilities, the highest in the nation. Property taxes here are just crushing middle-class families at an average 2.1% of home value. The state lost 500,000 residents over the last decade plus, shrinking its tax base. Manufacturing jobs have dropped by 200,000 in 2 decades, while infrastructure crumbles with nearly 2,300 structurally deficient bridges and poor roads, costing drivers hundreds annually. Aging nuclear plants push utility bills high in a state caught in a vicious cycle of debt and decline. Florida hops in at number 5 with an economy powered by tourism, real estate, and agriculture. Tourism alone accounts for $100 billion annually and employs 1.5 million workers. Imagine a 25% drop wiping out $25 billion in spending and thousands of jobs. Hurricane risks have pushed property insurance premiums sky high, or caused insurers to pull out entirely. Agriculture is also struggling with diseases and hurricanes having citrus yields since the 1990s. Rapid population growth adds strain on infrastructure, while energy costs rise due to reliance on imported natural gas. With one of the highest percentages of retirees dependent on pensions and Social Security, Florida's sunny paradise is built on some shaky sand. At number 4, we find Pennsylvania, a crossroads of old industry battling new challenges. Its $950 billion economy still leans on manufacturing and natural gas, but faces threats from trade disruptions and volatile energy prices. Agriculture produces $81 billion annually, but farmers are squeezed by rising costs and labor shortages. Infrastructure woes abound with thousands of deficient bridges and poor roads costing billions every year. Population growth is stagnant while an aging demographic burdens healthcare and pensions. Pennsylvania may look steady, but pressure is mounting in its core sectors. Number 3 is New York, a state whose economy towers at $2.44 trillion, but holds dangerous cracks beneath the skyline. With Wall Street generating 17% of state revenue, any plunge in markets sends ripples through jobs and tax collections. Manhattan office vacancy rates hover near 20%, shrinking property tax income dramatically. New York City's massive $100 billion budget depends on this fragile tax base, while transportation infrastructure needs $50 billion in upgrades that remain unfunded. Outmigration has cost the state hundreds of thousands of residents, while pension obligations continue to grow unchecked. When tourism dips, Broadway theaters and hotels suffer massive losses, putting thousands out of work. Coming in at number 2 is Texas, the economic powerhouse with a $2.6 trillion GDP, but, a heavy reliance on oil and gas for nearly 14% of its economy. Price crashes can wipe out billions in revenue and tens of thousands of jobs almost overnight. The housing boom in cities like Austin faces bust risks as interest rates rise and construction slows sharply. The population surged by 9 million since 2000, straining roads and power grids already weakened by the devastating 2021 winter storm that caused $130 billion in damages. Agriculture thrives, but is vulnerable to droughts that threaten cattle and cotton production. Texas's sales tax-based budget is especially exposed should consumer spending collapse. And finally, number 1, the state most at risk, Michigan. With a $640 billion economy focused heavily on automobiles, 175,000 direct jobs and $25 billion in exports, Michigan was one of the hardest hit during the last recession in 2008, when it lost nearly 200,000 auto jobs. Another downturn could be even worse, with uncertainties around electric vehicle demand and tariff pressures raising costs. Population decline continues in cities like Detroit and Flint, while pension obligations and debt weigh heavily on budgets. Agriculture, worth $14 billion, faces rising supply chain costs. Infrastructure is among the worst nationally, with crumbling roads, costing drivers hundreds annually without funds for necessary repairs. Energy prices rise as Michigan relies on coal and natural gas, and tourism tied to the Great Lakes could collapse as travel drops. So there you have it, 10 states hopping dangerously close to economic collapse when the next crash hits. From fragile industries to aging infrastructure and population shifts, these states face challenges that could ripple through every American community. Thanks for joining me on this important journey here at Traveling Kangaroo. If you found this deep dive helpful, make sure to subscribe so you never miss our latest insights as we hop around the world uncovering stories that matter. Follow us on social media for daily updates and visit travelingkangaroo.com for more detailed reports. Until next time, keep your feet light and your eyes wide as we continue exploring together.